Once upon a time, there was a tiny mouse named Tiny Tim. He was so small he felt lost in the giant world of the forest. He lived in a big and scary forest. It seemed like a new danger lurked around every corner deep within the woods. Everything seemed so big to Tiny Tim. Even the plants were huge obstacles for him. The trees were giants, their branches reaching up to the sky like long, leafy arms. Tiny Tim felt very small in the shadow of these enormous trees. Even the flowers seemed huge, their petals bigger than Tiny Tim himself. With every step, he was afraid of getting lost among these giant flowers. Tiny Tim was a very timid mouse. He was afraid of almost everything. A rustling leaf, a chirping cricket, even a drop of rain would scare him. Even a passing butterfly could send him scurrying for cover. The gentle flapping of a butterfly's wings seemed like a threat to Tiny Tim. Life in the forest was an adventure, but for Tiny Tim it was mostly an adventure in being afraid. Every new day meant facing a new fear. He wished he could be brave like the other animals, but the thought of facing his fears made his whiskers twitch. He wondered what it was like to be brave, but his fears always held him back. One day, Tiny Tim was nibbling on a juicy strawberry when a sound made him jump. It was a deep rumbling sound, like thunder rolling across the forest floor. Tiny Tim knew that sound. It was the roar of a lion. His heart pounded like a drum in his chest. He ran to hide behind the biggest leaf he could find, his little body trembling. He peeked from behind the leaf, his heart racing in his tiny chest. Through the trees he saw him, Leo the lion, the bravest, strongest animal in the forest. Leo was huge, with a mane like golden sunshine and paws as big as Tiny Tim's head. Leo was standing in a small clearing, looking troubled. He kept licking his paw, his face filled with worry. Tiny Tim watched from the safety of his leafy hiding spot, his curiosity slowly overcoming his fear. Gathering all his courage, Tiny Tim crept a little closer. In his smallest voice, he squeaked, "Excuse me, Mr. Lion, sir, why are you so sad?" Leo looked up in surprise, hearing the tiny voice. "Well, little mouse," he said, his voice a gentle rumble, "I have a thorn in my paw, and it hurts very much." Tiny Tim saw the thorn. It was lodged deep in Leo's paw, and the mighty lion couldn't get it out. Tiny Tim wanted to help. He was just a little mouse, spending his days quietly in the deep forest. He knew he was only a small mouse, and Leo was a big, strong lion. Leo was the king of the forest, and everyone respected him. But seeing the lion in pain stirred a new feeling inside Tiny Tim. This feeling urged him to act. It wasn't fear, but something warm and strong. It was courage. Tim didn't know where this courage came from, but he decided to follow it. He took a deep breath and squeaked, "Don't worry, Mr. Lion, I can help you." Leo looked amused. Tim's courage surprised him. "You? A tiny mouse like you?" He chuckled. Leo hadn't thought Tim could be so brave. Tiny Tim stood tall, his fear almost gone. The courage inside him made him feel stronger. "Even a little mouse can be brave," he said. Tim believed he could help Leo. "I can get that thorn out for you." Tim was determined to do whatever he could to ease Leo's pain. Tiny Tim ran towards the lion. Leo was so big! But Tiny Tim knew what to do. He climbed onto Leo's paw, careful not to prick himself on the sharp thorn. He took a deep breath and gently nibbled at the thorn with his tiny teeth. Leo watched in amazement as the little mouse worked. He had never seen such bravery in such a small creature before. It tickled a little as Tiny Tim nibbled, and Leo purred softly. This encouraged Tiny Tim even more. He nibbled and nibbled, his tiny teeth working hard. Finally, with a small crack, the thorn came loose. Tiny Tim pulled the thorn out with all his might. Tired but happy, he dropped it to the ground. He had done it. He had helped the mighty lion. Leo roared, but this time it wasn't a roar of anger or pain. It was a roar of joy and relief. "Thank you, little mouse. You were so brave," Leo rumbled, his voice full of gratitude. "You are a true friend." Tiny Tim felt a warmth spread through him. He had faced his fear and helped someone in need, and he had made a friend, a big, strong, kind friend. From that day on, Tiny Tim wasn't so timid anymore. He started exploring every corner of the forest, making new friends, and his confidence grew. He had discovered that even a little mouse could be brave. He grew braver every day and became known as one of the bravest animals in the forest. He learned that courage wasn't about being the biggest or the strongest, but about doing what was right, even when you were afraid. He was no longer afraid to face danger. And he learned that sometimes the scariest creatures could also be the kindest. The lion's gratitude and friendship left a deep mark on Tiny Tim's heart. And so, Tiny Tim, the timid mouse who was once afraid of his own shadow, became brave Tiny Tim, a true friend to everyone in the forest, big and small. Everyone loved and respected him. He learned that true courage, no matter how small, comes from the heart. Tiny Tim, with the bigness of his heart, became the forest's most beloved hero. Well, dear little ones, don't forget to like our story and subscribe to my channel for support. Goodbye and stay with love.